Welcome to the Envibe Live podcast with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. By tuning in, you are joining a community that will inspire you to increase balance, wellness, and joy in your life. We'll offer expert information and insightful conversations to help us all on our journey to live more in vibe. For more information and articles, remember to also check out our website at envibelife.com. That's ENVIBELIFE.com. And we're grateful that you're here. Hi, I'm Cheryl, and this is Amy, and today we decided to sit down and have a conversation on the topic worthiness. You're probably wondering, what do we mean by that, and how much can you really say about it? But it's been tapping us on the shoulder or knocking on the door of our subconscious that it's one that we talk about often with each other. And so we thought it'd be a great topic to bring up to the Envibe community to open the conversation with more people than just us.
Yeah, I think it seems elusive, but really we have found it show up in so many concrete ways in our lives that I feel like over and over again for a few years now, and then especially the last year as we've been planning to launch Envibe Life, where one of us might be held back by something or having a hard time with something, when we would start digging down and figuring out what was at the core of it, this topic, worthiness and true authentic self-worth, is what kept coming up.
True. As a roadblock for us.
Yeah. And then the more we got into it, the more we started realizing, gosh, it is just sort of the hub or the nexus that almost everything goes back to when you really, really start working or getting to a lot of different ways that it could pop up. This is what was at the core.
Yeah. I think through our self-exploration is when you start to discover that what was a big thing was worthiness. When we started to explore ourselves and our thought processes and, our actions and where they were coming from, or, that worthiness was one that kept getting us.
It is. And I think one of the difficulties is it's hard to define, or it's hard to really figure out what it is. And one of the distinctions that I've made in my mind, and we've talked about before, is there's a difference between self-worth and market worth. And so I think that's the big thing to delineate right now, that true authentic self-worth is different than what we in our society and world often think about as worth. And that's what I would say is that's what we're calling market worth. Mm-hmm. There could be other ways you think about it. And it, shows up, of course, in when we get a job or all sorts of different ways, how many friends we have. And they're great and valuable places for that, but it's different. It's really not what we're talking about here. And we'll get into, I think more of the specifics of that in a little while. But the key to know is that what we're talking about here is what a lot of people might call self-worth. It's what we've come to call authentic worth.
Yes.
And it's at the core of everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know, Cheryl, what do you think would be most helpful to talk about next? Maybe to go into, let's really talk about some of those things that market worth looks like.
Yeah, let's talk about market worth and what it looks like, what it is, and how that fits into worthiness or unworthiness.
Or, in other words, what authentic worth is not.
Correct.
So here's one thing. This is the obvious thing. How big your bank account is.
Right.
How big your car is. How big your house is. How fancy your clothes are. Mm-hmm. None of that is true, authentic self-worth.
No. That's all market worth.
That's all market worth or societal worth or however you want to think about it. What are some other things that authentic worth is not?
What college your kids go to.
What college you went to.
What college I went to.
What does your resume look like?
What does my resume look like?
How many friends you have. The size of your diamonds. How many likes do you have on social media?
I like diamonds.
Right. These things, we're not even saying these are bad things.
No, they're not.
And, they might be valuable to
they have a value
your job and, your marketability. They might just be fun for you, which is good too.
Right.
But the thing about all of these things is that they're transient.
They're transient.
They can come and they can go. And whether they're here or not, you yourself are still worthy.
Right. And it's not authentic worth. Authentic worth is that deeper soul connection, and that no one can take away from you.
Mm-hmm. No matter what.
No matter what.
Or here's another one.
Lose the car. It's not going away.
Here's another one. I think we've fallen into this trap before, and I definitely have seen other people too, how busy you are.
True.
How full your schedule is, whether it's your social calendar or your work calendar. How much you get done in a day does not determine your worth.
No, but I love to check off that to-do list.
Right. I know. And a lot of people do.
I love to do that.
For a lot of us out there, we might struggle with weight or body image or things like that. How skinny you are, whether you're a size 6 or not,
doesn't matter.
Does not determine your worth.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think one of the places I feel like, I think this is a good place to segue into what is authentic worth.
So what are we talking about?
Yeah. And one of the things that I think we heard a lot growing up is, Jesus loves everybody. And we know that, and we've heard it. And I think that Amy and I, we both grew up in very spiritual homes and loving homes, and we're always told we were loved no matter what. But I think believing it yourself is different than hearing it. And I think that's the process to getting to worthiness, and knowing it and feeling it, and knowing the difference between you and the voice in your head.
Well, and
maybe I'm jumping ahead here,
but it's so you can hear something and mentally acknowledge, yes, I know I am worthy because God created me, or Allah or the universe or source, or whatever your word for God is, or a greater power created me, therefore I'm worthy. But that's so profound. It's not just, yeah, that's true. If you're here, I believe there's a reason you're here.
True.
If a higher power puts you here, you are worth being here. You have a purpose. You have something for your soul to learn by being here and to contribute by being here. And for that reason, in and of itself, you're worthy. And it doesn't matter what your clothing looks like. And it doesn't matter what your hair looks like. And it doesn't matter what your address is.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter any of those things that can come and go or be different for every person. Don't take away or add to your worthiness. It is just inherent.
Yes. So I think this is a great place to segue into one of our favorite quotes and favorite authors is Gary Zukav. And he says that true authentic power or worthiness is the alignment of your personality with your soul.
Right.
And that becomes your worthiness when you align those two things. And so sometimes the personality I would define as the voice in your head that maybe is telling you you're unworthy, and the soul is the piece of you that is speaking only out of love. Right?
Well, we all have that narrative that runs in our head all the time. And sometimes it's hard to differentiate it or quiet it when you need to. But yeah, I think getting down to the core of your worthiness is, we've all heard the metaphor of peeling back the layers of an onion, and that's so true. And another metaphor I have heard from a spiritual teacher I follow a lot is your spiritual journey here is kind of like a spiral, and you start on the outside and it just winds in more and more and more. And the more work you do, the closer you get to the center of that spiral. And I think Cheryl and I believe that what's at the center of that spiral is your true authentic self. And that true authentic self is where worthiness is or exists.
Yes. So I kind of want to interpret the spiral of what it meant for me. When you very first told me that example, it made me think, okay, when I'm on the outside of the spiral and something triggers me, it might take me a long time to get back to, oh, that wasn't about me, or
the middle. You're further away from the middle, from the center.
And I think in the center, I put the word love.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, but some days, the more I practice that spiral and getting back to love with my thoughts and my acts and my intentions, then my spiral gets smaller. Like I'm spiraling in the smaller piece of the spiral versus the bigger piece. But I think it changes. Like sometimes it's very easy for me to just spiral in the middle, and then I'll go and get too busy and I'll be spiraling on the outside.
Yeah, because it's not linear. I mean, this is not a linear path. And even just because you have worked through something doesn't mean it's not going to come up as an issue again. And maybe the next time you'll learn it more deeply or more thoroughly, or there'll be just some little thing there that you hadn't figured out yet. And sometimes you just need a reminder, I think, too.
To listen to the whispers before it screams at you.
Right. Well, and that's so often, I think, what comes up, or when we really start first getting to what is our true self or true worth, for so many of us, and you hear this over and over, it's because some big negative event happens in your life, or you go through a period of suffering or pain, and so you start digging a little deeper. And so, like, why does that happen? Why do we so often have the negative things come up as our teachers or our lessons?
And this is where I could go in with that pain. So several years ago, my brother passed, and that's when I started this journey of, first of all, it came through great grief and exploration after it to find deeper meaning in life and, what's the next step. Through that pain came this journey of exploring deeper and then discovering that the difference in the voice versus the personality, or the voice, which is the personality, versus the soul and the true worthiness. I discovered that. But I also, over these years of discovering all of this, one of the great books that brought me to another path of growth was Gabby Bernstein's book called Judgment Detox. It made me realize that I was judging myself a lot. And I would even say out loud to people, oh, I don't judge others, but I am hard on myself. Right. And I truly believe that I was a lot like that. And then I realized, why are you judging yourself so much and putting so much pressure for this to be perfect and that to be perfect? And, that none of that served me, but I was putting my self-worth in the market value versus. Right. So that's the path and journey that has brought me here, really, to Envibe. And this is a great time for Amy to tell her story because she has a great one on.
Well, it's a little bit different. I'd say I have always been a very spiritual person, always been a seeker. I've always felt like there's something else out there that I'm not getting. And, you mentioned we had, great upbringings and good families. I also will say I have a great family now, a good marriage and a good family, prosperity, a lot of great things. But then there's just always still been something there keeping me unfulfilled, just something gnawing at me. Like there's just something I'm not getting, or there's something missing here. And that internal quest, I guess you'd call it, is one of the reasons why I've just always read so much, listened to so much, sought out information from so many different people, and has had me on really a lifelong spiritual journey. I feel like that's just grown and grown and grown. And I did have a big aha moment at one point, and it was, this was several years back, as New Year's resolution for maybe even 2 or 3 years in a row, I was on this quest to be more deliberate, or I had decided that I'm too out there, I'm too erratic. Well, I need to be more deliberate with my words and with my actions. So words and deeds, essentially, be more deliberate. And that was valuable. And I made some progress in there. But then as I started getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and meditation is a key for me, meditation and prayer, which kind of go hand in hand for me, going deep inside myself in meditation, I reached a point, and it was an aha moment, like I said, for me, that I left thoughts out of that equation. that I've been saying I need to be more intentional with my words and with my deeds, which is true, but I'm not being very intentional with my thoughts. They're still out there bombarding me and spiraling. And it's what you do refer to as, what is that voice in your head, or what is the story that you tell yourself? Right. And when I really got in the middle of that, I realized that that story I was telling myself wasn't very pretty. And for me, there was also a lot of self-judgment and also a lot of self-criticism. And I had to really face that fact, first of all, because it really always starts with you. Yes. If you are, like you said, you weren't being judgmental to others, just yourself, but even, the corollary to that is true. If you're being judgmental of others, if you're being critical of others, if you're being hateful to others, if you are being, someone who dislikes others, it probably starts with you. You probably are not happy in the core of your being if you're being hateful to other people. I just don't think it's possible. And so I had to look at how that affected others in my life too. I also realized, because of what was going on in myself.
Yeah, I also realized that how you were talking back about, talking bad about others, being mean to others. Judgment doesn't show up always that way. Judgment can sometimes show up as putting someone on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Worship of somebody else is also a form of judgment. So that's another piece of that to watch out for, It lets you see that you're looking someone as their outer structure and not as a soul level. Like, we need to communicate and connect with each other on a soul level to get past judgment sometimes. And to get past unworthiness.
And that doesn't mean we can't learn from others or be inspired by others.
Or be inspired, learn from others, think that they're amazing.
Right.
And what they're contributing are amazing, because that's true. But worshiping and really admiring or wanting to learn from them is different.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, and connecting. And so for me, and here's the other thing, because here's another, you kind of alluded to perfectionism earlier. That's another way we have false worthiness and competitiveness. Those are two things I know I've dealt with in the past, and then I just see around me a lot, I feel like. And here's the other thing I want to say about perfectionism that came to me when you were talking. If you're searching for perfection, or going towards perfection. And by the way, I think going towards excellence or trying to do a good job with things is great.
Yes.
But perfect doesn't exist.
No.
And also think about where you're saying you are now. If you're saying you are going for perfectionism, it means that what you're in now is a state of not perfect or not good enough or not worthy enough. And it means you're putting your focus on the negative. And we know that what you focus on is what you bring about. Oh, yeah. Or I like the saying, what you appreciate appreciates.
Yeah. I like the saying, what you're looking for, you will find.
Yeah. Exactly. And so when you're, going for that perfectionism, or how am I in relation to others, you're really doing more than a single disservice. It's like a double disservice, because you're also, first of all, you're never going to get there. So you're probably always going to feel that lack of fulfillment, lack of worthiness. But also you're just putting your focus on the absence of something or the lack of something instead of the fullness of what it
is.
Could be.
The gratefulness for what is.
Yeah, exactly.
Moment. And finding that attitude or energy of gratefulness will draw more things to you to be grateful for.
And so what do we do? So that's our stories. And for me, it was a big aha moment. And then I really did start, it's not that voice doesn't exist, but I now see it for what it is.
We named it.
Yeah, we have names for our inner voices, and we talk about it. But I think, a couple things happened then. One, it made me understand if there's some part of me who can look at my thoughts and say, wait a second, that's a little out of control. That part of me that's beyond my thoughts,
that's your
is where I'm getting to the authentic me, my authentic self, my authentic worth. And that authentic part of myself is an observer of all of these things, of my thoughts and my words and my deeds. And so that's why for me, meditation is such a key tool, because that's where I go deep within myself and lose track of, I think, the physical world or the outside world a little bit, so I can just sit in that for a while and remember it. It's a remembering, and I know we all know it.
Yeah.
We all know we're worthy. We all know we're God's creatures.
It's interesting. We're recording this during COVID.
Yes. Well, right after COVID. Yeah. The shutdowns are over.
The shutdowns are over, but we're still in the cusp.
It's been a weird few months. Yeah.
But that was an opportunity that the whole world had to slow down and get into that.
Yeah.
And the next opportunity is to continue to take that with us.
Or the lessons.
What
are the lessons?
Find the joy in that peaceful, that quiet, that slow down, and not lose it as we get back to whatever the new normal might be.
Right. And again, I really want to say one more time, the things that have market worth are not bad things.
No.
The hang up we get into is when we confuse them.
Correct.
With what's at the core of our being, that core love, Christ, self.
Yes.
That's there underneath all else. And so I talked about meditation. What are some other ways you can start to peel the layers of that onion and get to know your true, authentic worth?
I think the biggest thing for me was recognizing the separation between the voice in the head and my true soul. That was a big learning curve for me. Now, obviously, I've always had a life of prayer, but through this exploration, I realized that sometimes my prayer was just me talking a lot to God, and I needed to stop talking so much and start listening.
Yes.
And the listening is the sitting still. And that is where I have realized that, through that sitting and listening to me is meditation, which it takes slowing down and having the time to do that. And sometimes I'll even go into autopilot with my prayers and then be like, whoa, slow down, take a few deep breaths, be intentional with what I'm saying to God here, take the time to feel his presence and take the time to stop and listen to what comes from him.
Sometimes a good tool for me for that too is journaling. As I start writing and just throw things on paper, and you might be surprised what comes out.
Yes.
It might be one of those aha moments for you. But we also, we're doing podcasts, no joke, because we both listen to so many. Yes. You wouldn't believe it. We love them so much. Yeah. We both read a lot.
Yes.
Listen to anyone out there we can think of.
That goes back with the intentions. I'm very intentional with what I listen to, what I watch on TV, who my friends are, because that is where I find growth, spiritual growth and happiness in. Also, I think one of the things you talk about journaling, I like mantras, a sentence or a word or some I am statements that I'll say over and over in my head, maybe while I'm running or while I am, exercising, that I use these as flow methods through the pace of whatever it is I'm doing. And then when I come out of the run or the exercises that I'm going through or the bike ride, sometimes I'll even do it with that. Then I'm at a peaceful place. And I truly then know that whatever mantra I've chosen, that I am statement, is real and authentic. And it's not just something the first time I tried this whole, I am, blah, 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 I was like, I don't believe that. If you say it enough times, eventually you're like, oh yeah, I am love.
Well, and so here's the next phase. So the first thing is starting to realize I am love. Love is the core of my being. I am worthy. I'm an authentic soul. All is well. The other is really believing it.
Yeah.
And receiving it. And so kind of going through the process of learning these things is phase one in a way, recognizing and then learning. But then I think another key lesson for me has been allowing that to flood over me. Yep. And that's, you talk about being in the flow. It will just flood over you, and then it gets you in a certain mindset and receive that self-love.
Yes. Yeah, that's key. It's powerful when you feel it.
Yeah, you want it to again, not just be in your mind, but flow through into your heart, into your soul, into the core of your being. And to me, it's just like this deep knowing that exists. And then, when that starts to happen, I don't know, what is the goal here? I guess is what I'm trying to say. And for me, when I said I felt so often in my life that I was held back from things. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, I know grief prompted you into this deep journey. For me, some of it was just frustration with myself because I'd had a lot of different goals or things I would think I'm going to start maybe this new business or this new path, and something would hold me back. And I had to really get down to the layers to realize it was myself holding me back out of a sense of unworthiness.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so those things, when I started working through them, I started slowly moving towards a place where I started feeling more freedom.
And I think as you started moving to your freedom, this is where we kind of grew together.
It definitely,
it birthed Envibe.
And we were just at this place at the same, God, it was meant to be. We were put together at a certain time.
And then you have a great quote about freedom.
Well, it's my own.
That's what I said. You have a great quote about it.
But I think the way I think of it now, and this honestly is something that did come through to me as another aha during or immediately following a meditation. By the way, when you're meditating, if you don't get some big thing at that moment, don't worry about it. Maybe it'll be 3 days later. You'll be out gardening and it'll just hit you, this is kind of how this happened to me. And it's that word about like, what is the goal for me? And it's feeling freedom to go do those things I want to do. But here's the key. I first had to get freedom from those limiting beliefs in order to kind of cross a bridge to start feeling freedom to do these things I felt would fulfill me and help me achieve my purpose and kind of move to the next phases and stages of my life. And that was a really, big moment for me too, at recognizing and having to take accountability for I'm the one holding myself back. Even if I try to blame other people or circumstances or whatever, it's really me. And what do I have to do to get through that?
And I think that's so powerful. It needs to be said again. It is freedom from to freedom to. And I love the picture of the bridge, because I feel that is you want to pass that bridge when you discover what your worthiness is.
Right.
And when you discover that, then
and that's the process. And that's the process.
Oh, that's the process.
And really that freedom from is a big moment in itself. Yes. That's that big aha where we said, I'm not that voice in my head. Yes. I'm not that thing that's telling me I'm not good enough, or
tall enough, short enough.
I'm going to be criticized for doing this. What are people going to say? What are people going to think? All of those sorts of things were a voice in my head. And this is a process too. And we still go back. It's a spiral. We realize these things and we're still just wrought with uncertainty all the time.
The beauty of this friendship is that I can see it when it is not her authentic self. And it's the voice, and I'll call it on her. Yep. And she sees it in me, and we'll call it on. And we don't even have to say it to each other. But
almost a look now,
really?
We just kind
of look at each other, and we're like, oh, she knows. And it just, it's great. And that's really the birth of Envibe too, is this friendship and this growth and everything that we're learning along the way, and how it just has inspired us so much to share this with others in hopes that we can really build a community here of people that continue to grow with us.
Yeah. And as proud as we are of Envibe Life, and we have fun, by the way. When we sat down today to do this exact podcast, it's so important to us that we were both a little nervous, but we were both thinking, this is so much fun. We also just can't wait to do it every time. And so that's a big part of it for us. But, we feel like having someone to talk to about this has been so beneficial to us that we want to share that with others. And the one message, if there's one thing you hear in this whole podcast today, you are worthy. If you're doubting it, we're not.
Right.
I don't care who you are.
And if you start to feel that unworthiness or hear that voice, step back and observe it. That's the first step. Observe that it's not you. It's just this random voice in your head. So I think that's a big one, But this is great. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation today on worthiness, and I hope you got some pieces that can really help you on your journey of finding your true authentic worth, and start to recognize maybe when it's not your authentic worth popping up in your daily life, and subscribe to our podcast, our YouTube channel, go to our website at envibelife.com.
Yeah, let's start a community so we can have a conversation with a bigger audience here, and even help us start to learn things that we might be able to do to help you realize your true authentic worth, because we want you to.
Definitely.
Because here's the thing, the more worthy you feel, the more you want to uplift other people too. You don't want to pull them down.
No, definitely. Well, thanks for tuning in.
We're so happy you were here.
We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Envibe Life podcast. For more information and to join our community, be sure and check out our website at www.envibelife.com. We look forward to sharing with you.